have a desire to fence, and you can train more, and you want to beat these people at 17 and 18 and 19 and 20, you have to train more.
You've got to have the desire as well. You've got to have the physiology, you've got to have the right mental approach, and ultimately you've got to have the desire. So moving on to the men's épée of the British Championships. 2 finals to go, men's épée and then followed shortly by men's sabre. This match between Tom Edwards on the left of the piste and Callum Johnson on the right. Callum Johnson from Edinburgh, Tom Edwards from the Red Hill and Reigate Epee Fencing Club, coached by Ian Litchfield. Referee for this match will be Adrian Adrian Speakman. Can't read your handwriting there, Karen. Our video referee, Jamie Simpson. So the pace immediately changing.
Yeah, quite. Well, and wait for it to change again in a minute. But look, épée is... as I've watched more fencing over the last few years than I ever have done before, I mean, I used to watch a lot of foil because that was my weapon, but as I've watched more, I've grown accustomed to the techniques and the nuances of the different weapons, different to mine. And épée is really, it's quite fascinating because what you're thinking about here is you can't get hit. The whole body's target, you've got to hit with a point, and so you can't get hit. It's the purest weapon. It's a real proper duel. You've done it. You know what it's like. So you've got the situation where your primary tactic is to hit your opponent at the same time as not getting hit. So the whole time you're having a battle of distance, opening, closing distance, luring your opponent on, waiting for an opportunity to pick your opponent off. And at the same time, it's a battle of wills as well, having the patience to outlast your opponent.
And having a good reach helps, I guess. And Callum Johnson used that to get that first point.
Well, Britain's most famous men's epist, certainly living men's epist, John Willis, has a phrase that will stick long in my mind: a good big 'un will beat a good little 'un. I don't think I'll ever forget that. And what he's saying is, if you're good and you have a long reach and you're tall, you're probably going to beat the short guy, even if he's really good as well. But saying that, you look at Fabian Kauter from Switzerland, Paolo Pizzo from Italy. They're short and they use a different tactic. They
step in.
They close the distance, of course, yes, but they are ultra fast. Change of direction is phenomenal from those fencers, and also with Kauter and his teammates as well, Heinze, the Swiss fencers. They are a little crazy. I can't think of another way of putting it. They do things that you don't expect, and the unexpected can be a big surprise, and it's served them very well. Well, no light coming up there for Edwards, and he's having his weapon checked. If the box doesn't light up, which it does, it hadn't lit up, then that hit would have been annulled and no hit would have been given. He would have changed his weapon.
I think he just missed. So 3 apiece. A couple of them were doubles. And we might finally get a very close match. What do you think, Karen?
Well, it's looking that way at the moment. Lefty against righty, as you can see, often creates an interesting fight. It's often unfortunate they don't now... they used to change it so that if you had a left-hander against a right-hander, you'd put the left-hander on the left-hand side of the piece and the right-hander on the right-hand side of the piece, so you can see the open side of their bodies.
Yeah.
Now, for TV and for live streaming, it's great to have the open side. Here we don't see as much of the body when you're looking at them, but it certainly creates for an interesting fight.
And it tends to push them to one side of the piece, doesn't it? Because they want to use the fact that they can both close off the same line effectively.
Absolutely, and of course if you think about it, you've got bits of the target that are closer to you than you're not normally used to. Of course lefties get to train against righties a lot more often than the other way around. Had an interesting comment from Anti-Fencer. He's told me that Max Heinze, the Swiss world-class men's epeist was a foilist first. He said before he joined the big boys game, but of course he learnt all his skills as a foilist.
Before he saw the light. Or switch to the dark side.
Switch to the dark side, that's better, that's better.
So 3 apiece. 3 minutes down. All the threes. Johnson has an interesting gait, an interesting kind of body position about him. He almost looks like he's kind of riding a horse. Just the kind of the way that his back curves, and it's kind of like he's a bit of a cowboy stance.
Well, often what you find with epeists is that they develop their own little style. Look, the techniques are all the same, but they develop their own little style, and I think you're right, it's a slightly unusual style. But his coach, Andy Alderman, giving him sage advice, I'm sure, in this extremely tight fight. And it's interesting to see that Tom Edwards, who's coached by Ian Litchfield, who I haven't seen here today, it looks like his dad was in the coaching box there in that break.
Do you see what I mean about the horse riding style? It's the kind of hunched shoulders, the kind of the back bent and turned around, and it's kind of languid. But you make the difference between style and technique. Technique is what will win you the point. Style is what separates you from the look of your fence, the look of the way that you do things. It doesn't necessarily do anything else but just give you that characteristic.
Yeah, and everyone's style is really important. I mean, we'll go back to talking about. I'll go back to talking about Paolo Pizzo. If you were to generalise and take a photo of him, take a snapshot of him, you didn't know who he was, you'd go, well, that's a bit untidy. That's not a very good on-guard position. His hand's not in the right place. Crikey, he's in the top 10 in the world. So, it works for him. And it's the same for Callum here. But what's interesting about him is excellent footwork. If you look at his feet, look at everything below the waist. The feet are moving brilliantly. And that's the mark of a good fencer in any weapon. You can have the best hand in the world, every shot in the book. If you can't move your feet, you're a sitting duck. And so fencers train, 75, 80% of the time on their footwork.
Style isn't something that can be copied, is it, either? I mean, it has to be... Copying style is pointless because it's unique to that fencer.
Yeah, you'll often sort of take bits of people's style and put them together and you then create your own style, but it's a combination of other styles. We saw some fencers in Bourges who are absolutely mimicking some of the senior fencers, and not necessarily those from their own country.
But they mimic the style, but they don't have the technique.
Right, but what I'm saying is if you take a particular style or a trait of a style, this person attacks and they always do X when they attack. I like that. That works for my attack. I'm going to try it. You train it, and then it works for you, and it becomes part of your style. And you, if you like, you become a composite of you bring lots of different techniques together. But you're right. Each style is completely unique to each individual fencer. Oh look, Ian Litchfield has commented. We have got a viewer. He said, Karim, I'm watching online with my 2-year-old. Well done.
Which weapon does he fight?
Yeah, I was going to say, his or her footwork any good?
You'll notice eagle-eyed viewers will notice obviously Leon Paul as the main sponsor, but Wilkinson's sword involved now with British fencing. Sounds like a good natural match, really, considering their logo. What's the deal with Wilkinson's sword?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, Leon Paul are the official equipment manufacturer for British fencing, and they provide all this fabulous equipment to these tournaments, and we are grateful to them as the federation for being such a supportive partner. But just recently, in fact in the last week, Wilkinson's sword has been signed up as an official partner to British fencing. The deal is of course there is money exchanging hands, who knows how much, but the deal is more about the promotion of, or the co-promotion of their brand with our sport. So it's a great deal for British fencing to be aligned with such a well-known worldwide brand, and of course, like you say, it's a natural fit.
But they are sabres though, aren't they?
Well, they're probably cutlasses. They do look more like a sabre, I suppose, yes.
No, they're not bent like a cutlass, though, are they?
Well, they are definitely more like sabres. I should have a word with them about that, shouldn't I? They should have foils on their branding. I wonder if they'll change their branding worldwide just for me.
Well, we've been waiting for a close match, and we seem to have got a close match. 7 apiece now as they go into the second break. Very, very cagey, very cat and mouse. Who is going to come out on top? It's time for you, Karen, to put your money where your mouth is. Is it going to be Edwards or is it going to be Johnson?
I got a sneaky feeling that Edwards is out for a bit of revenge here. He's kept it tight throughout. He's got to be careful not to get caught on Callum Johnston's flash attack, his running attack, for those of you who don't know the vernacular. But they recently met in Birmingham in the semi-finals of the Birmingham Open, and it was Johnston who came out on top. In fact, went on to win that competition with Edwards picking up the bronze. I just get the feeling at the moment Edwards, whilst he's not in the lead, does appear to be a little bit more in control. You don't agree, do you?
I think my money's on Johnson.
Well, there we go.
Yeah.
How much are we going to put on it?
Well,
a fiver?
Yeah, just enough to
then.
buy a beer in Rio when we get there.
Fair enough. I like your thinking.
Or a caipirinha.
Caipirinha would be more sensible.
So it's England versus Scotland.
Wales versus Scotland.
Wales were
me,
Edwards.
My fellow Welshman there.
Edwards, of course. Edwards, the clash of the Celts. Oh, there we go.
Is that flesh you're talking about?
So French for arrow.
Correct. And it's Tom Edwards who needs to be careful of that one, and that time he just closed the distance enough for Johnston to feel comfortable enough to launch the attack, and he did so successfully.
So it's kind of like running and diving at your opponent with your arm out straight.
Yeah, well, basically you have to launch that arm out 100 miles an hour, and the reason that it's called an arrow is because you lean right the way forward on your front foot, and you bring your back foot through. So as you're mid-air, you kind of look like an arrow.
Yeah, your body is straight, flying through the air. And again, so now really getting down to the business end of this match. 10-8 the score.
Well, now it's Edwards who's having to force the fight a little bit. He doesn't need to push too hard. It's a little bit early for that. But Johnston keeping the distance there, and we were talking earlier on about sort of playing for the doubles. It looked for all the world that that's exactly what he did just then.
Just has that fraction extra reach as well. Edwards needs to push forward now, doesn't he? Really needs to try and take the fight to Johnson, and can't really afford to give away too many more doubles.
Well, this is it. This is exactly it, and that's why he's not pushing too hard too early, because if you come at him from distance like that...
He just took the blade, didn't he?
He stepped away. So opened it up, and as you say, he took the blade, he took a parry, and it made it look easy because Edwards is attacking from too far out, but Johnston is not allowing him to close the distance. He's going for another weapon. I often think that this is as much about changing the weapon as it is.
Well, he's changing the actual different grip on the weapon.
Has he gone from a pistol to
he has pommel.
To a pommel grip, a French grip, yes. So he's
maybe he's just thought, right, I don't have enough distance.
This is a tactical change. You don't see many fencers changing from one grip to another. It's such different technique to hold a pistol grip to a pommel or to a French grip that you often choose one.
Well, this is a real change because it's given him an extra 1.5 inches of reach, basically.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. but
less control.
You lose the control, quite. Took the words out of my mouth. But if he's going to go for these attacks from distance, desperate times call
and he's
for
also
desperate
changed
measures.
the angle as well. He's changing the angle of attack. The way that he's positioning himself on the piste. He's just trying to do everything he can. Went for the low line.
Again,
flash attack from Edwards.
Yeah, but too far away. This time he was able to protect himself from the parry riposte. He countered out and ran past, so no hit scored. But Edwards definitely has to get closer before he launches that attack. And as time ticks away, we're going to start to see the intensity go up, and he played a beauty there, really ready. Not quite sure why Johnston took it upon himself to attack. A bit of a tactical error there, but Edwards was ready for it.
Yeah, Johnston could have just let the clock run down. I mean,
right.
we're into the last 40 seconds of fencing. That's a long time in Epee. But time is on his side. Well, now it's all very tight. 12-11. Edwards made the weapon change. And it wasn't just a standard weapon change. It was a completely different grip.
No, I saw it in Bourges as well, and I was fascinated. Oh, run into each other here.
Oh,
the referee.
I think that even though the light went on, they were body to body.
Yeah, Adrian Speakman was ready for that. He's a no-hit called. Yeah, I was just saying, I was really surprised to see it in Bourges in the final of the junior men's épée. Cuomo changing from a pistol to a French grip, and I was stunned. I'd never seen that before, and now I see it a week later here in London at the British Championships.
Oh! Big celebrations in the Scottish corner. 7 seconds left on the clock, and it's 13-11.
Well, you and I both know that you can score more than a couple of hits in 7 seconds. He's got to go for it. He has done. Well, you wanted a tight one. Here it is. He's got to go straight away. Edwards, got to go.
2-1. Got to attack. Hasn't, and that is it. It's timed out. A massive celebration from Callum Johnson from Edinburgh. He is the new British champion in men's épée. 12-13 in the end. Edwards tried his hardest in the end to get back into the fight, but just ran out of time.
Yeah, quite. And I've got to be fair to you. Hats off. I owe you a caipirinha or two. I thought that Edwards was going to have that, but right at the beginning of that final period, he gave up hits on that flash attack, so he allowed his opponent to attack. And I think that not only did that give Johnston the lead, but it gave him a lot of confidence at the end there, and he was able to see it through, like you say, on time.
Well, talking of time, nicely segmented, we should be pretty much straight through to the men's sabre final, which is coming up. Was it due to start at 20 past?
It was due to start at 22, believe it or not, but we're so far ahead.
We're so far ahead, aren't we? So I think we're gonna roll straight through with it.
Well, they're coming on now.
Yep. So don't go anywhere. If you thought the last match was good, I think this one is going to be equally good. We're going to finish with a banger.
Yeah, absolutely. Men's sabre, my guilty pleasure, and you got two of the most talented fencers